another week for our players. We had a good workout last night, obviously today off. We were pleased with our game last week. Most of our post-game comments were accurate in that defense really did a nice job of adjusting at halftime. I think it was a surprising first half for most people in that both defenses had really played well, and then for that many touchdowns to be scored in the first half. But I guess that's a great part of college football. Everything's exciting. You never know what you're going to get week to week. So we're moving forward. We feel like that we're still somewhat fresh and healthy football team, which is important. Defensively, we're tackling better, and offensively, we still got to find a way to run the football and be a more balanced team. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, and just looking forward to the week and heading out to Morgantown.
What type of place is it to play?
You know, it's interesting. If your team's playing good and you got good players, then you can play just about anywhere. If you're kind of middle of the road, then playing on the road can be difficult. I think our team's somewhere in between right now. We're gaining some experience in some key positions, but we're certainly not to a point that we were years ago where we had a really experienced group. But each game is different, and it's certainly a little more challenging to play on the road. But I think we're developing some confidence with this team, and we've played fairly well on the road over the last 8-10 games or so, and so we're looking forward to the challenge.
It seems like a stat or a trend that hasn't been discussed much is how much better you are offensively on third down. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it seems like your play count is way down for your defense.
Sure.
Have you charted that?
Yes, you're right.
How profound that effect has been?
Well, we're a little better up front. Quarterback's a little more experienced, and I think we have a good group of receivers, which is helping on third down. And for that reason, we're able to stay on the field longer. Last year, we had more 3-and-outs than we had in a long time. And I don't know exactly what those numbers were, but I don't think anybody had to look it up. You could feel it. So that improvement has really helped our football team to convert drives and stay on the field and find a way to get points.
Right at 50% conversions this year, 33% last year.
Sure.
So.
And some of these this year have been fairly long third downs. And last year on third and long, we were in a world of hurt. We weren't in very good shape. And so we have improved in that area, yes.
Is a big reason for that because you've got a quarterback that's pretty confident, seems to be pretty calm in those situations, doesn't?
Yes. We're a little better up front. At this point, we are considerably better pass protectors. We still got a ways to go, and we're not the finished product, but we've improved our pass protection, and our quarterback is a little more experienced. And he still makes some mistakes. He has a few errant throws, but one of the things he's done a good job of is he stays very calm. And so we're extremely pleased with his demeanor and the way he handles the games and in those situations.
Isn't it interesting that you and Dana are offensive guys, and here y'all are 1 and 2 in this conference in defense?
They've really improved. We thought they got better last year. They gave up some numbers, but we thought that they were a good defense. And we all can be exposed at certain times. That's the one thing I think it's interesting in college football. Not just in this league, but if you look across the country. I don't watch a lot of games, but sometimes I track scores. You can have a good year, and then you can get exposed a couple times each year by one team's game plan being much better than yours, playing on the road, doesn't work out for you, so on and so forth. And other than a few points in one of their earlier games prior to them playing Oklahoma, they didn't really give up any points at all. and have been very sound. Their safeties are playing really well. They pressure some successfully, and up front they've been good against the run. And you know, in the other side of that question in here, you know, we've pushed hard the last 4 years to try to build some depth and enough speed and strength to perform at a high level on defense. And I think that it's working. Statistically, it is for us now. You know, from this point on, we're going to play some really good offense, and we'll see where we're at. But I'm fairly confident that our defense is better than what it's been.
Mike, despite your run game problems, you all are still a top 25 offense, total offense, points, all that stuff. Is there a reason for that? Is that Mason? Is that your pass game? Is that just being creative in some situations to try to make up for the fact that you're not getting that 150 yards a game or whatever you want to do running wise?
I think Mike and the staff are doing a great job. And I'm usually the Grim Reaper on Monday mornings, and I know they don't look forward to me coming in there, but I try to be as upfront with them as possible. And you know, my message to them this morning was I thought they did a really good job last week in the situation that we were in. Our goal was to try to find a way to rush for 100 yards with playing some younger and inexperienced backs. We didn't accomplish that, but we had a plan in the throwing game to give us a chance. Now, that's inexperienced journalism. I just bragged on you. I just bragged on you earlier, and you can ask Klein. I just bragged on you. I said, now, when he walked out of here, that's an experienced journalist. And then you look at these students down here. Look at these guys. They're like, if Bill wasn't my buddy, I wouldn't say that. But anyway, that is a good ringer. Yeah. Now it's not as good as Bieber's ringer, but it's a good ringer. Anyway, John, I lost my train of thought there. See, if I was in my 30s again, I could remember that. We were talking about offense.
Yeah.
Mike and them have done a good job not exposing what we feel like are areas where we're deficient and trying to put our players in a position to have success. In order for us to play as well as we need to, we have to find a way to rush for 150 yards a game to stay fairly balanced. Now, the flip side of that is people say, hey, just forget it, just throw it 60 times a game. I'm not comfortable with that. That's just me. I believe in balance, and so we will continue to work and find ways to try to rush for 150 yards a game. But the schemes and the philosophy and the play calling and the coaching on that side of the ball I'm very pleased with.
Okay, fans are going to see it one way, and they may not see improvement week to week. But are you seeing some of that right now that leads you to believe you're closer to getting to that 150 goal?
Yes, but we had a setback last week, and personnel is a factor in everything that we do, and we really like the future of Jeff Carr, and Raymond Taylor gave us some really good snaps, but we need those guys that are playing, that are experienced, that are bigger, and that are stronger, and that understand. So last week is really not a fair comparison to the progress that we've made. And, it's not just the fans. I mean, I get it at home. I mean, it's the same issues. I mean, I understand what's going on, and there's not always what the term I use, a quick fix. We have to get a little better each week, and I think that's the question you're asking, and I'm saying yes, we're getting a little better. Hopefully it'll take place sooner than later, but we have a plan to improve, and our goal is to rush for 150 yards a week.
Do you foresee, is it still your expectation that both of the others, that Carson and Childs will practice and play Saturday?
Yes.
That was my second question.
Is this what you envisioned out of the Walsh package? Mike, he's been really efficient when he's come into the game.
I want him to be able to do more. And, I mentioned that the other day that, there's not enough plays in the game, and the scenarios haven't been built. There's a bigger package for him, and there's two ways to look at that. One, I wish he could do more because he deserves to be in there more, and he's good for our offense. Two, I don't want to be disruptive with the flow that Mason has in the game, and I'm not sure that I have the answer for that, and I don't know that anybody else does. I've never been in a system where we parlayed two quarterbacks and had success while doing it, like what Spurrier did back in the 90s. The couple years he had those guys were really good. Maybe it's later than that, I don't know. And they were winning a lot of games and doing it. So I don't want to disrupt his flow, but I also would like to get him more plays. But we are very pleased with what he is doing in the game. He's played very well, and we've been very successful when he's been in there.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Emmanuel Ogba?
He's, kind of a coach's dream that he's got great work ethic. Never talks. He just plays hard. He's in a difficult situation to be at the age he is, and potentially a first-round pick, and the value of his future, and to be able to set that aside and practice and perform and give you leadership skills that he has is very rare. And so we're lucky that we have him, and I couldn't be any more pleased with the way that he's handling himself and the leadership he brings the team, even though it's very quiet. And when he gets going, coming around the corner, he's pretty good. He's got really fast hands, and he's strong. And the interesting thing with Ogba is that his best years are ahead of him. He really just started training when he got here with Coach Glass, and I think he's 20. I think he's 21 now. So when he's 24, 25, and 26, he's really going to take off. So somebody's going to get a good player at the next level.
I was very impressed with his sack on the three-man rush late in the game.
Sure.
That was a big play.
And, the advantage is when it's an all-out pass situation, and he knows it's an all-out pass situation, and a call from our coaches can minimize his run game thoughts, he's like those guys that play on Sunday that, if you just watch those games at night and you think, why would a guy want to play quarterback in the NFL? And people say they don't earn their money, but they earn every penny that they make with the beatings that they take from those guys. That's what he looks like. When he knows he's in that pass rush mode, he's pretty good.
Mike, most seasons there would not be a lot of carryover on the defensive side of the ball in preparing for Kansas State and coming back the next week with West Virginia. But because of Dana's personnel, what he's had to do there, that's not the case. I mean, there's actually quite a bit of carryover between those two offenses.
More tight end, more fullback under the center. I had a question this morning on one of my radio shows, and his thought, from an outsider looking in, his thoughts are similar, but his style of play is really nowhere near what it was here with Whedon, and we didn't use a tight end, we didn't use fullbacks, and so there is some carryover there. They're running the quarterback some. He's pulling the ball and doing a good job of keeping it, and he's kind of added that dimension into his offense and trying to protect him some. You see where they're trying to get enough out of it, but also trying to, I would think, I can tell, trying not to get him hit. Because the guys that that have run in this league have been bounced around pretty good. But there's some similarities from that standpoint. In this game last week, when the first quarterback got knocked out, they brought the other guy in. He fell right back into what they've been doing the last 4 or 5 years, which I thought worked to their advantage. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to coach for them, but he added a pretty good dimension to their offense.
If you win Saturday, it will be, you lose the 5 in a row last year. I'm sure you think, what do we got to do to win a game? Now, if you win Saturday, it's the third longest win streak that there's ever been. Just how much, in terms of you walking across the street and going to work every day, how much value is there to your energy level, all of y'all, when you're in this kind of role, when you're winning games like you are?
You know, to take a quote from the famous Todd Monken, when we worked with him, he would say, whether you're coaching in junior high, high school, junior college, Division 13, like he claims he played Division 13 ball, Division 3, Division 1, the NFL, he said if you're winning, it's fun. If you're losing, it's not any fun. And I think that's the best way to describe the hours that we put in during the season, the players and the coaches. The teams that, for whatever reason, aren't winning, they're putting in the same hours, and eventually it gets old. And so it boosts your level of enthusiasm and your attitude when you're having some success. Now, coaching, for us that have been around and coached a long time, you know, we have to identify if the players are maximizing who they are and we're getting all that we can out of them. But that doesn't always mean it's going to be easy if you're not having success. And so it makes a huge difference when the players are able to win some football games and continue to come back and work hard. I've coached on teams where it went the other way. You get in the middle of the season, you lose a couple close games, some of the players aren't happy, it goes south on you, and it's just not as fun because you spend more time counseling than you do actually enjoying the game and being around the players.
Such a miserable stretch like you did last year, and then you're winning again. Does it renew your appreciation for winning football games?
Sure. I think it's like all of us in life. Whenever we lose something for a little while, we think, that's a pretty good deal. I enjoyed that, and then at some point we always think it's greener on the other side of the fence, and you realize that it's still there. And so I think that when you start winning again, everybody feels good. It can happen just like that. It can turn really fast.
Mike, as the years have gone on now, there's only a couple players left on this roster who were recruited by Dana. You guys have had so much assistant turnover. How do you assess his imprint on this program as it stands today?
Well, I've said that when we were looking for an offensive coordinator and Brandon Weeden was our quarterback, I thought that he was a terrific hire at that time because we went from a balanced attack. Well, I shouldn't say that because we were balanced when Dana was here, but we went from a heavier run, play pass attack to a new system that would fit what Brandon Weeden's strengths were. And it worked for us, and it lasted a couple, 3 years, and we won a lot of football games, and we could make that transition with him at the quarterback spot. And so that's where it really helped Oklahoma State football.
Can you talk about the character and resilience you guys have shown 2 games in a row now coming back in the fourth quarter?
I mentioned it after the game, and you only hope that they'll play that way and play hard. And I said it at Texas and really, again, with the Kansas State game, that you hate that a team has to lose. Both teams play really hard and played really hard till the end. But our players, even after giving up the late score on fourth down, that's a time when guys can just kind of tank it a little bit. But they didn't, and they kept playing, and you convert a 4th and 7. We come a long ways from this time a year ago to being able to throw the ball essentially however many times we had to throw it in a row and protect on 4th and 7 and complete it and keep the drive alive. And, that was something that was Bill brought up. It's almost unthought of last year at this time. So they've bought in, and Rob Glass does a great job with them. I think they're in tremendous shape, and they're fresh, and they're able to play well in the fourth quarter.
Mike, a couple of weeks ago you couldn't kick an extra point. Now he's kicking game winners every week. I mean, is there anything to explain kickers? I mean, any better insight now than 5 years ago? Or?
Yeah, they asked me that after the game, and I've been involved in college football for almost 30 years now, and I don't have any clue what goes through kickers' minds at any time. And with Ben, his poise and his demeanor has been a lot like Mason's. He doesn't get very excited, and he doesn't get very upset. He just kind of is even keel. And you guys had asked me after that, and I said there's really not an issue with him. He's kicked better than he's ever kicked. He just kicked 2 low extra points. And why that happens, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's there's a technical side to it that he knows, but I don't understand it. But we're obviously pleased with the way he's kicked the ball over the last few weeks.
When he missed I guess it was really the first really big attempt of his career at West Virginia a couple of years ago, the one that hit the upright. Mm-hmm. Did you think, okay, this guy's a freshman, this is a big game and a big moment, and it didn't go well for him?
Yes.
Like flattening, or did you not know him well enough to know what to expect?
I didn't know him, but that's what I thought. He's a freshman, he's on the road, and you just kind of play all those things into it, but didn't know him well enough to have any clue of how he would react.
Mike, you talk about that 150-yard rushing threshold you'd like those guys to reach every week. You guys have obviously been successful and haven't reached that, but over the long term, I mean, is that sustainable? Do you feel like there are ways you can make up for it when it's not there?
John asked that question earlier, and I'm not comfortable with it. I'm sure you can. And Robert brought up the fans. I'm sure the fans think you can throw for 600 yards and rush for 10. If you're winning, it's okay. But I'm not comfortable with that thought with our personnel right now. If we had 7 experienced offensive linemen up front and a 2-year veteran at quarterback that had 20 games under his belt with this group of receivers, I'd say just fire away. But we're not really there. We have the receivers, in my opinion, to run that style of offense. We're not as deep and as experienced up front. And the quarterback who's getting better, he's just not there yet to say, okay, we're going to wing it 60 times a game. So for that reason, we still need to rush the ball 30 times a game, and we need to find a way to get 150 yards rushing is kind of a goal that we have for the remainder of the season for us to have success. That's my opinion on it.
Is a big part of this your belief that, and we know rushing yards are more controlling yards, that you're going to have to run to win some of the games in November?
Well, I just think, if you're going to keep throwing passes, you're going to have to be able to run the ball. Eventually, you're going to run out of just throwing passes. And it just works together. You guys watch enough football to know. Defenses have to be able to, in our opinion, we need them to defend the run and the pass, not just one or the other. And so we just have to continue to get better, and we're going to work at it. I added some time last week. Obviously, that didn't work. And I'm going to add some time this week, 7 more minutes a day, specifically for that part of what we're trying to improve in. And that's what we've done in the past. And the old theory, if you stress it and it's important to you, you'll get better at it. And so I'm hoping that that's what'll happen as we progress.
Chad Whitener is kind of the latest example of all the depth you guys have on defense with him stepping in this week. He gave up a Pac-12 scholarship to walk on here, move closer to home. Is that just kind of luck that he showed up here, or do you kind of look at the reputation of the walk-on program here, help bring him here? Or?
I'd say both. There's a little luck involved that he showed interest in coming here because we knew who he was in high school, but we certainly didn't follow him when he was at Cal. But there's also a reputation that's being started and generated here about us being able to really include walk-ins in not only scholarships but playing time and the success they're having here. And so I think both kind of factor into him being here and now having success.
What is your reaction to the officiating chain gang deal right before the half the other day? And then, are you surprised with tempo the way it is in college football now that there's not more problems with spotting the ball in the chains and getting all that? Seems like there's way more potential for that now than there's ever been.
What you're saying is correct. I was unaware of the situation until after the game. Robert told me I didn't know, and I heard somebody mention it to me later, but it didn't matter at that point. It was already over with, so I didn't care. Those guys have a hard time with the way offenses are and watching substitutions and sideline. And see, they've changed their procedure this year. I'm sure you guys picked up on it. They not only hold it, they hold it until the defense gets all the way off the field. And what they've done is they've eliminated teams like us of trying to snap it fast, because even if they have 1 foot on the field, they're supposed to flag it. I think it's a good rule. It doesn't help us, but I think it's good because it kind of minimizes a little bit of the erratic part of our game. But they have a difficult job. There's a lot for those guys to look at, and it's hard for them. And it's interesting. I was watching the end of the game last night with Whedon and those guys, the Cowboys, and I heard whoever the announcer is it Chris Collinsworth? He said that it's amazing that we were able to ever officiate games without instant replay because of so many plays and how detailed it is. Well, it's kind of the same thing for these guys. I'm surprised that they can set it in the right spot, get it going without making more mistakes with all the action going on.
Was that Monken quote, was that a direct quote, or did you leave out specific words?
There was, if you need the other specific words, you can go to the ESPN, what was that called? The Year of the Quarterback, and you can fill in the rest of them. But hey, by the way, he's doing great. Yeah, he's doing good. Proud of him.